continuation of our meeting, so we'll just get right into it. And,
I do have one request from the public. When you're speaking, even to each other, would you talk into the microphone because they're having trouble hearing, okay?
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you. All right.
We'll
Mr.
move
Minner.
forward. Hey, just as a side note, let me jump back to I wanted to give you a couple updates that non-related to budget, and go back to the general fund real quick. One of the things I did that we did recommend in the budget, I don't know if you caught it or not, we did reduce the city manager contingency in the general fund from 100 to 50 grand. So hopefully, that'll bring down some public requests. I think the lion's share of that money was actually spent on capital projects or trying to pick up things that we had forgotten about, and then we fell back to that. But I thought it was kind of good to start tearing that down just to be more conservative. On a side note, I want to get you up to date on a villages issue. I think we met with the Navy on the overlay district, and I think we came up with a pretty good solution on that. And we met with, so that's the update there. And then with the fiber issue, we met with Summit today, and I think as part of the terms of the sale, they still wanted to do the 3 years, but they seemed amenable to, as a part of a default mechanism, to we would get to foreclose and take the system back. So I'll know more on that on Wednesday. So I felt good about both of those things.
Well, that's good. It's only fair that if they've got the money and they're kind of, well, we've got the money. Are you questioning us? Well, no, but this is the safety of Leesburg if they default. So the fact that you went back to them, I'm very glad about that.
No, I think it was good actually that they saw your position. I think it helped us. I think it helped us. So in any case, on to the budget. So. Tonight, a couple of things. Our schedule tonight's to go over the CRAs, the discretionary sales tax, and then we talk about the gas tax, building permits, housing, and debt service. So without further ado, special revenues. Special revenues are in the CRA. Our CRA for the Leesburg CRA essentially remains the same. Most of the lion's share of that is paying debt. That's in the downtown CRAs. And I think we also left some money in there for the sign program.
It's all going into reserve.
And it's all debt.
No, we're going into reserve. The 71,346.
Okay, so essentially you pay the debt and then you've got about $71,000 free dollars. Any questions on that?
Did we have anyone take advantage of the facade grant?
Yes.
And I've got one to apply for myself, so I gotta do that. So.
Yeah, I thought about it. I didn't want to be the first one.
How many rough did we get?
3, I believe, and there's more in the hopper, but I'll get you.
So there's
you can get
3 in the hopper.
And one comment.
But we have no budget for it this year.
We have a budget.
Part of the 71.
No. We can
I thought
move
we
it.
did put a budget in
No.
for that.
We were looking at.
We did last year, didn't we?
We have last year's money.
So we still have
We have
$100 grand or
money.
so sitting around.
Oh, we still
for
have
that.
plenty of
Yeah.
money. And we could always
You could
move
always move our
reserves in if we
reserve,
run
yeah.
out. I mean, because I think that's a good thing, that facade grant.
Yeah, I mean, we tried to hit it pretty hard and get the
Yeah.
word out, so.
Oh, yeah.
You want me to be first, Dan, of the commissioners to ask for one?
Well, I just want to be the first in the city.
Okay.
I don't think commissioners should ask for it.
Yeah.
No, just write it off as part of your duties and say, I don't want to take money from the city.
On the Carver Height expense, most of the, again, they look similar. We're still at the 90 grand for the debt service, which is the resource center, and then we reserved 67 of it. Did we have a use for that, Brandy?
No. No, that's just what's left over.
One thing that got brought up, and it could be CRA, it could not, is the idea of some sort of at least small camera system. It got brought up in the context of downtown, and then also Berry Park, to help deal with some of the vandalism issues. That, because one, that they're super cheap now, outdoor cameras, and sometimes just the presence.
We did. I do recall that. We'll have that conversation.
And so, I mean, it seems like there's a little bit of money, and if we just spend $1,000 or so on a couple cameras, because I know we had some major vandalism issues.
Do we have any luck catching them?
I don't think so. No, is the answer. Not yet. And then also, some of the other funding from that goes to the funding of the outreach center, where we're estimating. We split that, if you recall, this year. Actually, so we'll roll some of that over. And then $62,000 a year is about what we were estimating for operating expenses there. On 441, you see the increment go up. And I apologize again. Where are we spending that money, Brandy?
This one's just debt service. so-
This is debt service. Yeah.
Oh,
But they were able to, we refinanced that, so that's better.
So remember, we've got the structure of spending the proceeds on the debt, coupled with some gas money, and I think we've got a couple years left of the gas money. But if we augment that with the incremental revenue, you push off the impact of the total CRA debt on the general fund. And I
This is
think we have that now scheduled, that it really doesn't, we don't have an impact on that till it's like 2022 or
is where
something.
it gets bad, yeah.
This is from the reset is where
Yes.
we're seeing the big increase.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, you see a little bit of it in the 45 is part of the reset, because remember, it was 0.
Yeah.
So I think that 45 represents the partial year, and then the 123 is the total.
And a topic for another day, but related to the CRA here, can we look ahead, try to see if we can do something with Birchwood, and is that in the CRA or in the?
I don't think does Carver cover that?
Is it in,
I don't think Carver goes
in that neighborhood there behind
down to Birchwood.
the neighborhood going in there
Behind the
is in it?
Birchwood behind the post office, right?
Is it,
No.
No, that's Stock.
That's
Stock. Birch.
Exactly.
Susan Street is Birchwood.
Russell Susan Street.
Does that cover that?
I believe it does.
The
For-
Carver.
Yeah.
Not
Okay,
Because it
it's in
doesn't.
Carver.
Because
Yeah,
I think
but
it
still,
starts
yeah,
it
okay.
because it doesn't get the park. I think we excluded the park, and then I think, but we do get.
But you
Birchwood.
got but we also have the neighborhood going in there. That's
We included it in, I forgot, we included it in the most recent amendment.
we added it to this one, didn't we?
Oh.
Yeah.
Yes.
We
Okay.
added it, that's what-
So down the road, if maybe we can look at that. I had somebody else, bring that up as a concern.
Yeah, I think probably purchase of those apartments and doing a MESPA kind of there on Birchwood would be a good project.
But if it's in this one, we just have to do general fund because we don't have any money.
Yeah.
Not saying we shouldn't, just
Right.
Right.
So we come-
That- yeah,
from the CRA.
we jump back.
Yeah, there's not.
We jump back to here.
No, I think it is in 441.
No, it's in
right?
Carver Heights.
Oh, it is in Carver. Oh, we amended Carver to put it in. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's
Right.
good.
Yeah. And I think that rounds out our CRAs. So off to discretionary sales tax. Discretionary sales tax has a little bit of an increase, and there's where you see it spent. 400 of it is shipped over to the general fund to pay for leases and equipment. Debt service, the $1 million, that's I guess the 2001 issue or the 2002 issue that built the library, the addition here, the police station, and I think we've refied that a time, and then we take some cash towards capital projects. Again, I mean, there's not too, so it's consistent where we're spending it, and again, that's a really important revenue stream for the city. Gas tax.
So we can use the we've got part of it going into the general fund. Is that for police and fire vehicles?
Leases.
Then?
To-
Okay.
yeah.
All right.
On the car.
So that's kind of a double, because it goes into the general fund
Pay
for
for
lease
capital
payments,
projects.
and then we pay lease payments to the fleet
Okay.
fund.
Yeah, but they've said it's okay if we check.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Because the purpose of, portion of the purpose of the DST is public safety. On the gas tax, we split that. The division goes, part of it goes to streets. The 364 number is the general things that you reviewed in the public works budgets on Tuesday, and then 560 for road resurfacing. I thought we reduced that.
This will change, the draft reflects that, but in the final, it's gonna go down by the 125,399.
Right, yeah,
Get a
so-
reduction.
Okay, so let me just, you say it right there.
Yeah,
So basically what we talked about, I think we talked about this a little bit Monday. So this number, this number is coming down
Yeah.
by 120,000. We're recommending to you that the reduction goes into your street surfacing program. So instead of 560, it'll be 560 less 125, so
Mhm.
4,
No,
whatever
we're
the
okay.
math is.
DST went up, so I'm gonna offset them, we're okay.
Okay.
We can still
So,
do
oh, we are
yeah.
off, okay.
We're okay, so we can still do the 560, we're okay.
My apologies.
That's all right.
It looks just like it looks.
It's just their numbers are gonna change, but we can still do the road resurfacing.
On building permit, yeah, you know, that continues to grow. We changed one of the plan examiners to planned examiner 2. Any questions on the building department?
Yeah, this is the one with the inspectors. Yeah, I mean, I think we need to address in some way, because we can't,
Their pay issue?
yeah, we can't have vacancies in our building.
Okay, yeah, and
inspectors.
where we're at now is we have 2 vacancy inspectors, and the building inspector did submit a plan, which I rejected, that we spoke a little bit on this on Monday. The plan was essentially that most of the, do you have that plan do you have that handy?
I mean, I just feel we gotta be at least, we don't necessarily need to be at the county number, we're already kinda close to hire people. And I think we can deal with a lot of the future growth of 470 with outsourcing, but I don't know about inside this current.
No, this is you don't have Jay's proposal.
No,
Oh, do you have a proposal?
that's the 5%.
Yeah, this is my proposal.
Oh, that's the 5%.
There's Jay. You got your proposal handy?
I don't know, I didn't try to tell what it is.
I'm coming. Jay's proposal.
Commission, how are y'all tonight? We've lost two inspectors this month, both of them to Lake County. And for significant amounts of money. My proposal is that what we have now is we have a 3-tier system when it comes to inspectors. We have Inspector 1, Inspector 2, Inspector 3. So what my proposal is, we do away with the Inspector 1, Inspector 2, Inspector 3. We just have an inspector. And your salary is based on the amount of licenses you have to do. And give you an example, if you have 4 licenses, you would make $61,000. If you have 5 licenses, you would make $63,000. If you have 6 licenses, you would make $65,000. Both my inspectors, one was making $38,000, and the county's bringing him in at $62,000. The other inspector was making $52,000. The county's bringing him in at $55,000. My concern is that we're not going to be able to fill those positions with our present pay grade. Another example would be City of Eustis. They have a position open right now. The inspector position we have open right now, the salary range is 33 to 55. The City of Eustis inspector's salary range for that particular position is 55 to 79. So we're just not competitive. And so even though we're losing these 2 guys, we're not going to be able to fill those positions when we have people within our county paying so much more.
How long have they worked for the city?
Both, well, one of them been a year and a half, and one of them's been about a year, maybe a little bit less than a year.
And did they come from another, were they employed previously in the same position, or where did they come from?
One of them actually came from Lake County because
As an inspector, he was an inspector there?
yes, sir, he was, because Lake County didn't want to pay him. So when he came over here, we were paying more than Lake County. What Lake County realized was that they had to do something with their pay scale because they were losing people left and right.
So within the last year, Lake County's raised their pay scale?
Oh, absolutely, yes, sir. They lost 5. Lake County lost 5 to Orange County. So they realized, and so they brought their scale up.
You wanted to do something like this, right?
I just, yeah.
Ish.
Yes.
It's just, there's a shortage everywhere in the building supply industry. It's not just inspectors. I mean, you can't get electricians. You can't, anyone with any type of training right now. It's crazy. I don't want to go to more than the county. And I certainly don't want to try to hire the ones back so then the county goes and we just get in a game of raising back and forth.
But I absolutely agree with you. It's a very, as far as inspectors, plans, examiners right now, it's extremely competitive right now. I mean, you know, construction's up and everybody's scrambling trying to find people, and the state has made it so difficult for people to get qualified to even become an inspector. And then when you're qualified, I mean, you know, you have to have 5 years experience in each particular trade to even be able to sit for the state exam. It's extremely difficult.
So if we had to add, you know, 60,000, let's say, to the budget for 2 other inspectors, I'm just rounding off. Is there a way that we can offset that?
It's not number. I mean, here's the numbers roughly. In addition to the 5%, Jay was looking for another 44 grand.
So,
But it comes out of reserves from the building fund that have to stay in the building fund.
right. Well,
Essentially, we're looking to try to get the plans examiner from a proposed 68,000 a year to about 72. The building official from 92 to about 100. And the senior building inspector from 57 to 63, and the junior one to 41 to 63.
So what my question was,
and
whatever we, if we bump it up, whatever we bump it up to, is there any way we can do anything to offset that by increasing revenue somehow within?
You don't need to.
Don't need to. Okay, we're good.
You can take those and you can afford them. And here was why I rejected the proposal. And I left out the tech positions, which it's de minimis. It's like $1,500 for one and about $2,000 for the other, additional to the 5% that we worked on Monday. On the building inspectors, on the building inspections portion of it, the inspectors and the building inspectors and the official, we're obviously not competitive in the building inspector parts. We're losing them to the county for $11,000 and about $20,000 respectively. My guess would be is that if we lose them, we come back and we probably try to get someone more closer to the 55,000 figure, which would be an increase above what we've got. Frankly, talking out loud here in English as I would, I'm not overly worried about losing Jay. I think Jay does a great job. Jay's a valuable employee. Think Perry, when we get into the plans examining department, are in the same position. So I think we can skate there, frankly. On the building inspectors, I think that is a little more gamble. Obviously, we've seen the loss. I think we can use different services to bridge the gap while we look out. And then as we got into the technicians, my overall concern with the technicians there, and granted it is only 2 positions, but what we see internally again, and I think I explained this a little bit on Monday evening, was that with changing the building positions to a building tech position, it gets into the internal transfer that we have of where we start losing customer service reps that work downstairs in utility building. So we've worked, I think, extremely hard to get the customer service department to a level that we want. Now that we have that pay grade competitive with our other departments, And where we saw losses, we saw our techs, and this is an internal problem now. This isn't even external. It's internal to us. What we saw is we saw folks in the customer service area who would get trained, who would do this, hard job, lower pay. So we got the hard job and we brought up the pay. We've really, I think, put together a good team there because we've matched the pay compensatory with the work. And before we did that, we had the loss to administrative functions and work less hard, more pay. And what I mean by in the sense of hard is, I think the thing that makes the customer service job harder than the general administrative job is you have to deal with the public. So you take more grief, more complaints, more rotation, where administration, the work is probably equivalent to a degree, but you don't have that interaction with the public, which makes it, a lower stress tolerance of dealing with complaints and these type of things. So when customer service reps got the opportunity to get out of that, they did. So now that we have the customer service number up, we're seeing less turnover there, and we put together, I think, a pretty good team that's really improved statistics, and I think we've reported on that to you. My suggestion is if you want to tackle this immediately, I don't know if our 2 building officials have flown the coop yet, where we've lost them completely. Can you answer that?
Yes, one's already gone, and one's last day is next Monday, yes.
It's next Monday. And I can tell you, I think unequivocally, if I'm wrong, Jay, speak up. That one, to keep that one, you've got to jump up to 63. So you got to increase his salary by 22. At this stage,
it sounds like there's certainly a challenge we have there. We got to do something.
What's our
whether it's
fund
to-
balance?
I think they're putting away 100 and something this year, and I think there's still $1 million, over $1 million in the fund.
They got 1.4, like no reserved, but 1.4 just as of today.
And I'll tell you where I was at until, frankly, I think, and that's probably another reason too that I'm slow to react to this dynamic is, really, this is a change in the last month. I got notice of these folks leaving, and I'm dealing with the CBAs, dealing with the electric guys, so that's been on our table for a while. This is in the last month that Jay received two resignations, and so I tried to deal with it. So up until this time, as we started the budget process, I was working with Jay on reduction of our permit fees to get competitive on that angle. So I saw the window until the 2 resignations are on the desk of, well, let's get more competitive with our building permits to try to leverage growth and development by being able to boast a reduction in permit fees, and then compare that with our communities. So if we go this route tonight, I'm not prepared to. I got to go back and double check. I don't think it will significantly affect that. I know you could, so that's where I think that's where I thought the 5% probably then go back out. I think we'll probably have to bridge the gap a little bit, maybe even with some construction services to help us do some inspections so we don't get behind, and then a reevaluation of where we need to be to start hiring new building officials, which would probably bring these guys up if we could land somebody in the 50 to mid 50 in the mid 50 range with somebody with some experience. But Jay will probably think that's a tip.
I know that from dealing with this all the time, Leesburg Building Services has in the past been a constant complaint and roadblock to growth, and I feel that has recently been fixed, because in the last year I haven't gotten any complaints. It was to the point where I was pushing hard to outsource some of the services, and I got feedback saying, no, please don't do that, because we like your inspectors so much. So, I don't get complaints about, from builders talking about our fees. I mean, I'm sure everyone like lower ones, but they want good inspectors that are there on time, that aren't going to be, ridiculous, which we had. I mean, I don't know how many calls I got, and I'm sure other people did too, where Mike had to get involved with prior building officials to make them be reasonable. And that's just messing up our staff on the building side is the quickest way we can stop growth, and growth is what's paying for all these things.
And I agree, but and not just because Jay's standing right here, but really where that direction comes from, having the friendly building, a workable building department, comes from Jay. And that's the experience we had when Jay worked for us. We did well. When we brought in another building official, we didn't do well. When Jay came back, the friendly, good service came back. And I think that's a credit to Jay and Jay's management. So from my perspective, Jay is the one we need to keep happy. So we'll figure out the personnel issue, because the key to the success of that building department is having the building official who's willing to find ways through the code, not using the code to stop you. And that's a credit to Jay, and that's where the real success to our building department comes.
And $1 million, we can only use it for
Only for the building. Yeah.
and that's the other part.
So that's
you would hear
where-
a lot more pushback from me if we were having to.
I think to
transfer money
address,
in.
I think to address the outage, we missed that boat. If, at the end of the day, the buck stops at my desk. If I let 2 building officials go that we like, that's my fault. I'll take responsibility for that.
I think what Commissioner Roebuck's saying is whatever we have to do to, not whatever, but
Yeah.
we need to do something to get some people in that.
Well,
that we need to
and
bump
maybe
it up,
what we
so.
need to do in that regard is probably open up and change flatten out the building department structure as far as building inspectors go. Maybe we need to blend it into only, and I think you were saying this when I stepped out, you bring it into only 1 or 2 building inspector, building 1, building 2 inspector, flatten out their requirements, and then open up the range.
Can we
probably
maybe-
from the more towards the top. So you bring in a builder 1 who's somebody who could probably get the requirements but doesn't have it. You don't bring them in so much, but then have in your pocket a building 2 position so you can recruit somebody who's experienced and then pay them a competitive wage.
Can we find out, because we don't have to decide tonight, what Marion, Sumter, Lake, and Orange County are doing? The counties, it didn't take too long to look at all the
I
individual
have some of
cities.
that data, so
because at the end of the day, we gotta be competitive there, because that's where we're going.
And it sounds like if I got the pieces right here, we hired a guy and paid at $33,000 and paid him more than what the county was paying him. And then the county, a year later, the county has hired him back at $63,000.
For double.
So the guy went from $30,000 a year to and left the job because he wasn't getting paid enough. And they bumped theirs up from $30,000 to $63,000. So it wasn't like they just have been paying more all along or bumped it from 55 to 63. They went from 30,000 to 63,000 for that particular position and for that same person.
That's pretty much the case, Mayor. I
Yeah.
mean, what the county experienced was their salaries were low, and they experienced a tremendous amount of turnover loss. So within the last month or 2, they regrouped, and now they're being very aggressive with their salaries, because what they found was they had 2 private inspection firms at the county having to supplement their inspections. And between the 2 private inspection companies, it was costing the county $2,000 a day.
How much?
$2,000 a day to run the inspections. And they made a decision that, hey, we can hire 2 people to do our own inspections at a very competitive rate and still save a lot of money. That's kind of what it came down to.
Well, I think for me, Al, I'm at 3 points. Number 1, I do believe that it's Jay that's driving the train in how we're perceived, obviously, because we know that from experience. But from personal experience out on the job site, your view a lot of times comes from you and that inspector standing there, because you're not dealing with Jay, you're dealing with that guy. And if he's disgruntled and unhappy, you may get to Jay, but you're ticked by the time you get to Jay to get it fixed because you've been dealing with this out here. Number two, if we're having turnover, while those two guys are gone, we're way behind the 8 ball again on inspections. You know, which in any job, if you have turnover, while they're gone, you're suffering because you're not getting the inspection you could if they were there. And number three, we're giving the electric and everybody else these comparative wages from all these other places. So I think I'd kind of push for, you know, job comparative wages across the board in that whole department. If it's bringing more than it is, you know, and we have the money. So for me,
I mean, if that's what I'm hearing, then what I would ask the commission to do is give me a little leeway to adjust these within the existing ranges I got to stave off the one inspector from leaving. So that, you know, that's going to be around 60 to keep him-ish. And
but will he stay if he gets it?
I would have to ask.
you know, a week ago the answer was yes. Today, I don't know.
Does he have a job?
He's got an offer.
Sounds like he's accepted.
Well, yeah, but I can't imagine that this isn't a more pleasant place to work than.
Yeah, he has accepted, the one's already left, the other one has accepted the job at the county. And my other one, who's been here, just to give you an example, he's been here with the city for 13 years. And the one who's leaving here in a week and a half, he just got into the inspection business. Now, don't get me wrong, he's got a background in construction, but he just got into the inspection business a year and a half ago. And he's got 3 licenses now. So he's going from 38 to 62. My inspector, who's been here for 13 years, who has more licenses and been here for 13 years, he's making 55.
So you can't just
And scheduled.
pay it that much. There's a domino here.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you've got, if you go in and you've got 2 guys you got to address. And if I'm hearing the tea leaves from the commission, I'll go and try to address it. And
I would like you to
it's
address
probably
it.
within my authority to do that, I think. Is it, if I keep
What
him
is
in the range?
You may get outside the range. What is the one leaving that you're trying, what is his title? Is it 2 or 3?
The one who's leaving?
Yeah.
The first one or the one who's going to be
The
leaving?
one that we're trying to retain, is he a 2 or 3?
He's the trainee who's got all his stuff. Now he's actually an inspector 2, and he was scheduled to be bumped to an inspector 2, but he was only going to be bumped to
Because
42,000.
the 2 maxes out at 5500.
Yes.
So by the pay grades, 55 would be the top, but that doesn't mean you can't.
I can put him
Change
in.
a pay
I
grade
can
or
put him-
something.
Okay. I think my answer is if you want me to go address this, I will.
I would support it.
Yeah, I would like you to address it.
If somebody you want,
Okay. We'll get it fixed. And we'll report back to you.
You still have Rick?
Yes, sir. He's the one he's the one who's been here for 13 years.
He's thinking about leaving?
Well, because like I said, he's looking at these 2 other inspectors
Well, yeah.
who are going to the county at 65 and 62, and he's been here for 13 years, and he's only
Man.
at 55.
Yeah, you're going to address that as well.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah, I got 2 positions I think I need to address.
and I'm not being. I certainly don't think you should take this as criticism because, like I said, this has happened in a month,
No,
and we were
not at all.
paying more than the county wage significantly. So we can only react so quickly, I think, and hopefully they will understand that
Oh, absolutely.
too. That this is,
Yes. Sure.
this is a changing environment.
okay.
All good?
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
So that's the building department. Any other questions there? Housing essentially remains the same. Any questions on housing? And then I think we
Where's the revenue coming in from? Oh, that's from the
That's
property
the-
rental.
Yes.
And then the apartments,
Okay, and we have the.
couple houses. We have.
Is the admin assistant a full-time person now, or are we still?
Full,
I don't know if
no,
she's-
she's
she's a
full-time,
temp.
but she's
Temp.
not permanent.
Yeah.
She's a full-time temp
Okay.
and paid out of the NSP
Yeah.
monies.
NSP money.
which is grant, housing grant. monies.
Yeah, okay. And are we gonna pick up more? Is that person going to be transitioning over to working in the resource center as well?
Yes.
Okay.
And funded the same way until the money runs out.
Okay, I just wanna understand that. And do we have, how are we coming with the, what was we talking about housing, the, agreement with, was it
Kid Central.
Kid Central.
Ken's working on it. The quick update on that is there's been some reluctance from Kid Central to house the new resource center only because they can't afford the position is the feedback we're getting on it. So we've been beating them up a little bit, trying to figure out how we get that resolved.
Now, they told me there was a grant with a program where I forget what you had to come up with. It was like $15,000 or $25,000, and then the grant picked up the rest of the salary. But it had to be someone with like ties to the area, and they had to have a bachelor's degree, and that's how they fund their position in Ocala.
Yeah, that was last fiscal year, but, you know, the state's now fiscal year June, they don't have that money available.
Okay.
June 2017.
So is it going to be available in the future?
Not for June 2017. They're hoping that it will change in 2018.
Okay. So anyways, my thought was if that position comes available where we can get, it's like a $50,000 position for $25,000 and we've got a $28,000 position, then it's something I would like to look at.
Okay.
So, I mean, it potentially could even be the same person. I don't know who it is if they had the qualifications for the role, but we can get that.
I got
look at
you.
that when you get down to the road. I'm not
Yep.
saying that it has to be a different person.
Yep. And then that leaves us into the debt service account, which is essentially, you know,
Looks much better. It's Kristen Court, it was paid off. So.
which just reflects the one big note,
Huh?
right?
Yeah, but because Kristen's Court's gone, we just have the capital improvement.
And now we're taking the gas that was paying Kristen Court and it's going where? Nowhere. Staying in reserves.
Well, we had taken that money and pulled it aside to pay off. Kristen's
Yeah, so
Court.
that was.
It was just this whole.
Yeah,
almost
so that
specific-
doesn't mean, so that doesn't
It's
mean
just
there's a
gone.
block of a
No.
lot
Oh,
of
okay, I
gas
thought it was an
money.
annual.
No.
Yeah, because we
transfer.
took it, we put it in like the
Restricted
escrow, and then we
account,
spent
yeah.
down the escrow.
It's fine.
So that doesn't mean there's
No.
more gas money.
Gotcha.
So with that, that's this evening's budget workshop. Barring any other questions you might have.
Man, I only got 2 snacks in.
Well, that'll
for the
save
long
more
haul.
for next workshop.
Please take cookies with you because they won't last till the next budget meeting. Ms. Pam said, please take them.
I ate my share.
Hey, just also another, as you guys know, I'm going to be out of the office tomorrow through Tuesday, probably midday Wednesday. If you need me, I will have my cell phone. And if anything crazy pops up, you always have a mic. So,
Just out of curiosity, did anybody meet with Joe Sharps this week since our?
I did.
No.
I did.
I have
You
some
wanna
thoughts
say
on that,
something?
but I don't know if we want to talk
I'd
about it.
like to, if he's.
Can we have a public comment?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
that's fine.
Yeah.
Are you done with your
Have some-
presentation?
the floor is yours.
Yeah, are you done with your presentation?
Yes, sir.
Don Luckett, as you know, I come here to harass you a little bit. There's 4 concerns that concern me. Something came up yesterday in the budget hearing regarding the television, the LSTV or whatever it is, which
Lakefront.
to me is a very useless spending of money. Also, and I understand from my experiences sitting out here, you're also paying, and I don't even know the amount of money, a marketing director, which over the years I've lived here, see nothing out of. I'm not against spending that money, but could it be spent better? Recently, Eustis has started going on commercial TV promoting its city. We're closer to the villages. You know, you get people that come down to the villages, maybe realize they don't want to live in that jungle, and they go back to their motel room or hotel room at night and watch TV. Maybe they could see commercials of Leesburg, of some of the communities we have. I live on Beverly Point, which I think is one of the most beautiful areas of the city. I'm sure other areas of the city are as well. But is the money really being well spent that you're putting into it? I'm not saying don't spend it. I'm just saying maybe spend it a little more wisely. Item number 2 I have, and I haven't seen anything from the city manager yet on this, is the village's sale. I don't personally have a problem with it. I understand the city's going to receive in the neighborhood of $8.5 million. What I'd like to see from the city manager and staff is what it's going to cost to bring the services to that area. I don't want to have to pay for it. Will the $8.5 million cover sewer lines, pumping stations? You're eventually going to have to put a police substation down there because of the distance factor. You're going to have to put a maintenance yard down there, probably even a mini customer service department because of the distances from downtown Leesburg to down there. Will the $8.5 million cover that? I don't think as taxpayers in the city you should have to do that. That's a concern of mine. Concern number 3 is the proposed community building. The city manager's kicked around $3-4 million building a new community center. Why? Community centers are sporadically used. For a quarter or a sixth of the price, you could upgrade the current community building. I'm not saying it doesn't need to be upgraded, and take that extra $3 or $4 million and put it into infrastructure, which is definitely needed in the city for street resurfacing, street surfacing. There's still some streets in Leesburg that aren't even paved yet. Sidewalks and other things that people are going to use every day instead of $3-4 million in a community building that's going to be sporadically used. That's a third concern that I have. The last concern, and I'll bring it up again, is that property you bought on Beverly Shores. Is there money in this current budget to develop it into a park that it was originally purchased for? To make a park out of it, to open the boat ramp, and to use it for the purpose that you got $250,000 invested in? These are 4 concerns that I, as a citizen of Leesburg, have. Throw me out if you like, but that's just a little bit of input I wanted to throw at you. Anybody want to question me on anything?
No, I think I know we've had discussions, we talked about it a little bit on Tuesday night, but personal discussions with Mr. Minner. We've talked about doing some marketing, and maybe we do more than just talk about it at some point. But I think that's
you know, the LSTV nobody watches, and when you do, you're going to see the city commission meeting. You're going to see. I've noticed recently they have a lot of interviews with the housing director. That isn't going to attract people to Leesburg.
And then as far as the boat,
the city of Leesburg.
Yeah, the marina. I think we're going to talk about that on Tuesday.
Marina,
I'm sorry, the park on.
25th.
Yeah, on the 25th. We're going to talk about on the 25th. Yeah, so we'll talk about that then. And
you
then,
know, take that money and try and siphon some of these people that are considering moving to the villages and siphoning them off, and maybe they'll move to the city of Leesburg.
Absolutely, I think we've got a lot that. And as
but at night, after they're getting wined and dined by the villages and gone through all that craziness that they do produce up there, they watch TV.
All right. Okay. All right.
That's just a thought.
All right. All right. Anybody else want to say anything this evening? Yes, ma'am.
This is about the splash pad. I know that you talked about this the other day, but I had brought this up in May that there was concern about slip and falls.
Yep.
And now I see an article from Leesburg talking about some serious slips and falls. Is it possible to shut down the splash pad until this is corrected?
Or here's and I'm not to interrupt, but here's a thought with that, because I'm glad you brought it up. What if we just required that the kids wear those shoes when they go in there, and whether we buy a bunch of them and let them use them, or everybody bring your own or whatever, but that they'd be required to wear those shoes when they go in and play. Because I was talking with somebody, actually mentioned that they went to the splash pad for the first time, and something came up about the slipping, and they said, well, my kid didn't have any problem because he wears those shoes anyway. And so I hadn't thought about it. So what, could we do that and just require that they wear the shoes?
We're talking about ironic.
We have a. I'm sorry.
This is Dr. Kim Etheridge right here sending me a text. I'm sure you guys are aware, but I'm with my 4-year-old grandson. His birthday party at the splash pad just wiped out, and about 10 other kids. You got a big problem down here.
Can we
before
go?
the lawsuits start coming, we better do something.
What about those shoes, DC? Is that something that has been discussed at all? Do you know if they?
We haven't talked about it. It's certainly a possibility. Actually, at this point, Travis and the recreation folks are making the rules for the operations, and I think that'll come.
Of course, if the kids aren't running, they're not going to slip, I would imagine. But
Wet concrete.
Look, on Monday during the regular meeting, I brought you up to kind of some of the bullet points we talked about. One was changing the apparatus, the way they spray, so that we don't have the apparatus all spraying at once like it is now. So checking that out. We have the mats there. We're also looking into scarification of that surface again. So
can we just take a look at the shoes and see if we made that a mandatory thing for kids coming in there? And I'm sure, but they're not expensive. You can go buy them at $5 or something.
And I don't know if it would be applicable or not, but on boats, what's the stuff that we put in our boats to make them non-skid? The foam stuff that they put in to spray in, you can get it to where it looks like wood grain or all.
Oh yeah, like C-Deck. Yeah, C-Deck is a brand. There's a couple brands.
But do they make
Probably
anything?
really expensive, and I don't know about how it would hold up in that.
Well, I'm just saying, do they
application.
make anything in the world of splash pads like that kind of stuff?
You're doing that. Yeah. And by the way, I got DC talking to some pool people, so we're working on this fix.
Yeah,
Did you hear me, DC?
I wouldn't close it down now.
Not C-Deck, because that's for boats.
We're working
They may
on
make
Yeah.
something like that for pools
might be
that would
a temporary
adhere to
solution,
the
if anything. That
Or talking to the other towns that have splash pads, are they having the same problem?
well, that's what's a little bit.
The answer is yes,
Yeah.
and they've opted to tear up their concrete surfaces and go to the more expensive foam cushion surface.
That would be like,
About $100,000.
yeah.
Yeah, we should have did that 4 months ago.
Well, I thought that we even had discussions about the fact that when we built this one, that they're slipping and falling at these other ones, and some discussion about making sure that we don't have slip and fall at ours. And so apparently we ended up with the same thing that they have, because I thought we were getting a surface that was different.
Question for you, whether this is the time you want to have any discussion at all, or you want to wait till later, because we're on budget, and part of the budget is the partnership. Since several of us have already met with Joe, do you want us to have any kind of discussion, or do you want to hold off on that?
It's up to you all. I'm scheduled to meet with the executive board when I get back, I think on the 20th or the 19th. I'll have more to report to you then. I don't know specifically what your conversations with Joe involved.
I think it needs.
I mean, if you all want to
wait, 'cause
discuss
I
it.
talked to him, and he couldn't answer all my questions because they had another meeting on Monday to get with the to get all the cash flow actual numbers. So it's a discussion we absolutely need to have. But
We'll
I don't
just wait
think they're
till
ready.
you've
Okay.
met with
And like
him.
again, I think mine is the 19th or something like that.
Okay.
So
So you'll be away this weekend?
I will.
Have a good time?
Thank you.
Do you have the checkbook?
My wife has it.
The 20th, I think, is the day.
And I'll just ask now rather than later. The resource, not the resource, the incubator, business incubator. What are the ongoing plans with that? Anything with the resource center that relates to that at all, or is that? I'm looking at Ken back there, but everything's goes
Yes.
usual on that. Yeah. Okay.
Separate.
All right.
Ken, is there anything for new businesses coming into town? Like brand new startup businesses, if they're not in the incubator, they're starting up, but they need help that the incubator offers?
Absolutely. UCF has, you know, a one-on-one how to start a business, how to write a business plan. And it's really the Small Business Development Center that has been here now for quite some time, that offers free classes and some nominal fee.
Well, they've leased the building right here on Main Street across from Renew Salon, and they're gonna be opening up there. So, when we're done, give me your card with your number and I'll have her call you.
Okay.
If any things are happening, guy owns the little building here on Town Square. I guess they're putting a nail salon in there, so there's another new use coming in. Got a lot of nail places in downtown, but there's
A lot of nails, man.
yeah, a lot of ladies like their nails.
Apparently Beacon bought the vacant lot on Canal.
I cannot believe how
Okay.
fast that building's going up, dude. They tore it down one day and started building the next. I mean, they're rocking.
Yep.
Anything else? All right, so we'll be back on Monday, we have a commission meeting,
July 24th.
July 24th.
And I will not be here, guys. I'll be down doing lobstering, so sorry I will miss you.
All right. All right, we're adjourned? Okay.